Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of Cryptic Conversations. I'm your host, Tunez from the Crypt. We have another very, very special guest today. Today's
Oh,
guest,
shucks.
today's guest is Dr. Elisa Medhus. Dr. Elisa Medhus is a physician and a mother of 5 who has practiced internal medicine for over 30 years. She is the author of 3 award-winning parenting books and has lectured on parenting for schools, parent groups, and corporations. After the death of her 20-year-old son, Erik, Dr. Medhus began journaling her grief on her blog, channelingerik.com. A strong believer in science, she formerly viewed spiritual matters with skepticism. Once Erik began to communicate with family, friends, and blog members, her entire paradigm shifted. After devouring books on quantum physics explaining the science behind spirituality, Dr. Medhus began her journey towards spiritual understanding. Welcome, Dr. Medhus.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So yeah, to kind of kick things off, I wanted to say, I know it was a couple of weeks ago when we started arranging, our meeting, and
Hmm.
I told you that I noticed some connections already, and so I just wanted to say, I think in life that we're all connected somehow, some way. Sometimes it's more noticeable than others, and when it came to you, it was kind of weird. So it was a couple of weeks ago, and right when we started arranging this meeting, my company, without getting too detailed, let's just say my company signed on a client, and it's something by you. And I'm not sure. I mean, I think you're from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not sure how many bayous there are in America or how many even there are in Texas, but I just thought that was a strange connection. And
Oh, yeah. We
yeah,
got Buffalo Bio right over here, right next to me.
I think that's the one. Yeah.
That must be it.
Yeah. All right. So let's just get right into it. Talk to me about your early life. Where did you grow up and what was your family life like?
Grew up in Houston. Well, I was born in Galveston. Spent
Hmm.
6 months there, my first 6 months, and then my parents, who were both physicians, moved to Houston. So we
Ah,
practice and all that stuff.
yeah.
Um, my childhood was absolutely atrocious.
Hmm.
I was raised by deranged people who my father beat us
Oh, man.
almost on a daily basis since we were like 6, 7 years old.
Oh,
Over
man.
the a cloth is in the silverware drawer, weird stuff like that. No, we were really sweet kids,
Hmm.
but it's okay because so anyway, 2 of my sisters ran away and became homeless and had to eat off plates in restaurants of people who had left their table.
Hmm.
It was really bad. Um, and I was the only one that took care of my parents. I mean, everybody else flew to the winds. So
Hmm.
even when they were older, they were just horrible. But it's okay because I learned a valuable lesson from Erik, really,
Hmm.
that if you want to end suffering, you have to see the value in it. And once you do, then you can express gratitude for it. And once you do that, then you can let it go. I mean,
Hmm.
if I mean, because of that childhood, and I'm sure it was a spiritual contract,
Hmm.
it taught me to be more assertive, more compassionate, a better mother,
Oh,
more
yeah.
nurturing, and all that.
Yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't have been that great had I not experienced that. But anyway, but
Yeah.
one thing about my father, he did start me on the journey.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I grew up. I don't know if I'm grown up. Maybe I don't know, 6 or 7. I better be. But anyway, so went to Rice University, went to medical school, and got my medical degree in internal medicine residency and all that stuff, and started a practice in Houston
Nice.
and
That's yeah.
raised 5 kids.
And
Hell yeah.
so you did that for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah. Okay. And so, I read about it on your website. Tell us a story about how you got into scalar energy healing.
Okay. Um, well, my eldest daughter is married to a wonderful man,
Hmm.
but his father announced to the family several years ago that he had 2 types of terminal illnesses, cancers. And I was devastated because this man is an angel. He's just a big teddy bear. I love him so much. And I
Hmm.
didn't want him to die. So I just researched and researched and researched. and found how scalar energy is a little bit different, that it can carry information to somebody's body, and it's energy. Everything's energy, even matter.
Yeah.
Einstein referred to as frozen light, right? So I tried that on him, and he's still alive, and doing
Yeah.
pretty well. So it's so big, though. I don't know if it could cure him, but we've
Hmm.
cured a lot of things. It's just miraculous, some of the things we've done. But
Yeah.
so that's why. I mean, I love him. I really do. He's so great.
Yeah.
And but the way I got into any of this stuff at all was through my dad. Uh,
Hmm.
3 days after the funeral, I mean, just to show you what an awful guy this guy is when I screamed on the phone, "Eric's dead! Sorry, Elisa, but he's going to turn to dust." That was his comforting remark. Okay, so anyway, but I knew he was a militant atheist. But
Oh,
about
okay.
3 days after Erik died, my father called me on the phone to say, "Elisa, I don't know what's good." I was his favorite, by the way, because I was the only one there for him.
Hmm.
Anyway, so Elisa, I don't know what to believe. I was sitting in my chair reading the Wall Street Journal, and I look up and there's Erik standing in front of me. I don't know what to believe. I'm so
Hmm.
startled. I'm panicking. All right. So, like I said, this guy said what he did when I first called him. He would not say this to make me feel better,
Hmm.
give me comfort, to give
Hmm.
me hope. And so, yeah, and that made me wonder, well, maybe, I mean, I was never atheist. Okay. I just didn't know. And,
Yeah.
raising 5 kids, I didn't even have the time to think about it.
Hmm.
But so I started reading about near-death experiences, parallel universes, quantum physics, controlled studies on mediums, etc. And my daughter, who was a medical student, second-year medical student, she didn't have time to grieve, so she created Channeling Erik blog. She was a web
Mm.
designer too, but also her little fashion uh, beauty blog called Pretty
Mm.
Shiny Sparkly, just gives some light to our lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Channeling Erik was to a place so that grievers could come together and
Yeah.
support each other. And
Yeah.
that's the way I healing others. That's the only way.
Yeah. I want to send you my love, and I'm sorry that that's something that you went through. I can't even imagine what that must be like. Everyone says it's like the worst thing in the world, for a mother to go through that, and I just want to
It
send
is
you.
the worst thing for any human being, the worst that can happen to a human being,
Yeah.
truthfully. And I will never be whole. Never.
Hmm.
I love Erik so much.
Yeah. And as you know, my sister found you, and she has her own story with that as well, if you've talked to her. So
Yeah.
you're doing, yeah, I mean,
So,
what you're doing is great, like regardless of whatever people think about it, it's helping people grieve, it's helping people heal, and it's giving that community,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, can you tell us about your experience with the scalar energy healing, and how it works to improve people's well-being?
Well, the whole thing is based on physics. You have this theorem in physics that thought creates reality.
Yes.
And it does that because consciousness, which is actually scalar energy, your thoughts are actually scalar energy. And are the waves from Reiki healing.
Mm.
Um, it goes to the person. All I need is a full name and address and all that stuff. And it carries what it does is it collapses in something called the Schrodinger equation, changing light particles. Everything is light. Okay. In other words, photons into no, it changes waves. I'm sorry, light waves, of which we all are,
Hmm.
to photons. And via the instructions I deliver in the scalar field, those photons are rearranged to create a new reality, a new, energetic body, etc.
Yeah.
And it's like I suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome because I've been raised by parents who say, "You're not enough, you're not enough." So it's
Mm.
like, to me, I hear all these stories. Like one lady, for example, her kid's teacher called and said, "Your kid doesn't seem to have autism anymore." Things like that. It's like,
Wow.
or Michelle Gray's her husband, his grade 4 prostate cancer. It just went away. And,
Wow.
the doctor thought they had somebody else's chart. Or the lady who had horrible atherosclerosis, and I sent instructions, and it's very elaborate, like 14 pages long. Okay, some of these things, to get rid of all the atherosclerotic plaques.
Yeah.
And when she went to her doctor, they were all gone, and the myocardial scars she had from prior heart attacks, myocardial infarctions, were gone, healed.
Wow.
I know.
This is crazy stuff, man, and I can see how people are skeptical to it, and it seems like this woo-woo stuff, but
But it's not.
but
It's
it's
physics.
not. Yeah, it's like I've been into the law of attraction, and I've even been I've seen a couple of hypnotherapists lately, and I know that the power of your mind, your thoughts. So what'd you say again? Our thoughts are scalar waves.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So
And they're unlike any other energy, because you have the electromagnetic spectrum, where you have radio waves and x-rays and microwaves, and of course the visible part of
yeah.
the spectrum. But scalar waves are not that. They are different. They're apart from that. They're
hmm
helical
Yeah.
and informational. And interestingly enough, DNA is helical and
Yeah.
information, and it
Exactly.
can travel over infinite distances without degradation. That's why I have people in Australia and Finland and all over the place.
Wow. So, I've become fascinated with Nikola Tesla over the years. Can you speak on the connection there?
Well, he's part of the team that helps me. Uh, he and Robert Maxwell discovered uh, scalar energy. They didn't invent it, obviously, but and so he's done so many things that really go unrecognized. For example,
Yes.
he created a scalar energy contraption, I don't know what to call it, that powered all of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, with just one little thing.
Yeah.
So this is 0 point energy. It's free. Okay.
Yes.
But the oil barons and all that stuff, that if you can't put a meter on it, it ain't gonna
Oh yeah.
happen.
Yep.
He even made a car. I don't know if it's a little car or an actual size car, but that ran infinitely on scalar energy. So this technology, we're being kept from that. Instead,
Yeah.
we're healing with operations. Of course, you need Western medicine and Eastern medicine. The scalar
hmm
doesn't take care of everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, and it's big pharma.
hmm
Um, you know, uh, they want you to be sick.
Yeah.
They do not want you to be cured
Yeah.
at all.
I think it's crazy how much Nikola Tesla did for us, but growing up as a kid, you don't learn about him. You learn about Albert Einstein, or you learn a little bit about Albert Einstein, but you learn about, Thomas Edison, and he worked for Thomas Edison, didn't he?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Thomas Edison ripped him off.
And ripped him off. And then, from my understanding, it was almost like J.P. Morgan was investing in Tesla to help him build that Wardenclyffe Tower. Is that the thing you're talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, and so he's helping him invest in this Wardenclyffe Tower. And like you said, it's like he started to realize, like, man, I'm putting too much funds in this project, like, and if we can't put a meter on it, then what's the point? And then he pulled back his funding, and
All
then
about money.
yeah, it's
It's all about
crazy.
money, and the same thing with the healthcare profession. Although I won't say much about that, because I have two daughters that are doctors, and another daughter who is emergency room,
hmm
badass emergency room nurse, and they do such great work, and
hmm
I'm very proud of them. But the bigger part of healthcare is, like, they don't want you to get well. For
hmm
example, cancer oncologists, um, they're the only doctors that I know of that actually get paid when they dispense chemotherapeutic
Wow.
medication. Whereas there's one simple thing called low dose naltrexone, along with IV alpha lipoic acid, that has been shown to, for $46 a month, for LDN, low dose naltrexone, cure advanced stage cancers,
Wow.
including pancreatic cancer.
hmm That's crazy. So yeah,
But
so
you
there's
can't make money on that,
yeah,
you know.
that's crazy. Okay, so how do you respond to criticism or skepticism about the efficiency of scalar wave technology?
Well, I don't read comments, so I don't care. I
Yeah.
have so many video testimonials that
Yeah.
lift me up and help me through my imposter syndrome. And I don't care. I'm not doing this for money. I can tell you that. I made a lot more as a physician, but it just gives me, I'm very passionate about it. And I just love seeing people, their whole lives change.
Wow.
I just watched a video. My whole life changed because of scalar energy. So, and it doesn't hurt. And
Uh-huh.
it's not interventional. It's not invasive. It's
Yeah.
completely safe. And you don't have to do anything. You just sit at your home or you can be in the grocery store as long as we have your actual physical address and your full name. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be interested in trying it out myself. So how do you balance your medical background with your work in spirituality and energy healing?
well, it helps to have physics behind scalar energy. That helps me. But I do believe in a greater power source, the creator of which
Mm-hmm.
we're all whole and part. I believe that God, if you want to call it, I don't think it's a man with a beard sitting on a throne or anything.
Exactly.
I think it's a sentient, self-aware energy that has
Mm-hmm.
always existed and will always be. The reason we have a hard time with that, partly because we think the Big Bang Theory has started in
Yeah.
whatever, is that we are born and we die. And so everything must have a beginning, but that's not necessarily true. It's just we don't have the vocabulary to describe that. But
Yeah.
we started the Big Bang, you got to think about that.
Yeah.
So, but no, I do believe there's a place for Western medicine. And in my disclaimer, I tell everybody, you better check with your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Check with your doctor before you order this.
Yeah. Okay. What about, do you know if there's any ongoing research or scientific studies related to scalar wave technology, like in present day? Like, I'm sure there's some ongoing research on it.
Not
No?
as pertains to medicine. I mean, I don't see
Mm.
anything. I see people selling
Wow.
scalar pendants and bracelets and all that stuff. Now, I actually do a lot of research for the intent scripts that I make up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just crazy. Like, for the weight optimization, I have things like TRPV1 receptors in the physical body of this person, blah, 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 or activated maximum level of activities, and adipogenesis of brown adipose tissues, work with
Yeah.
that. Natriuretic peptides, we work on that. Irisin, which is something that, needs to be up in order to decrease weight. I mean, and this is cool. Adiponectin, I make sure that that's increased to the ideal and maximum level. Adiponectin is something that if you had an abused or if you were abused or neglected as a child, research recently has shown that the whole epigenetics and endocrine system changes, and your adiponectin, which helps you not have belly fat, decreases. And so, so anyway, there's just look, that's just one script. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Takes me a long time.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell us about your personal journey and how you became interested in spirituality and the afterlife?
Well, when I had that phone call from my father, it gave me a glimmer of hope, and it's like I am a mama before anything else, man. And Erik and we had such a special bond, and I tried so hard. We lavished him with all sorts of love and help of all sorts, but it must have been his contract to go the way
Mm.
when he did.
Yeah.
But then, I didn't want to think that he was nowhere. So that's why I
Yeah.
did the research. And then he started doing pranks and visiting us and all that. And that gave me more and more hope. But like for example, okay, I was about to lay down in my bed. Before I could hit my head on the pillow, I see Erik jumping on the foot of my bed, back and forth like a bunny rabbit. And my deceased sister, younger sister, Denise, was on the left foot of the bed looking at him like, you fool. I was watching him. I can't believe this. I know I'm not asleep. And then he looked at me and had this shocked expression. Mom, you can see me. And he fell into my arms, and we
Wow.
hugged, and it felt real. But then, that as real as that sounds, and we've had phone calls from him. Hey, Mom, it's Erik, it's me. But then time passes, and you don't trust it as much. So my doubts would creep in, because I didn't want it to, like, all of a sudden something proves it wrong, and then I have to, then it destroys everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I didn't want to go through that, so I didn't want to quite go to 99% or 100% belief. I sort of hovered, in the 90s. I was scared.
Yeah, because you said you grew up, your parents were atheists, you said?
Yeah.
And so, so you grew up, not really, necessarily faithful, or, not that you didn't believe or you believed one way or the other. So yeah, it's cool to see, like, as we progress over time, that we become, more open to spirituality and these kinds of things.
So
Yeah.
we're getting there. Science and spirituality are trying to bridge together, but material science, we used to be centuries ago much more spiritual.
Yeah.
I mean, there were these ancient peoples that believed, like Nassim Haramein, or however you say, that from infinitely small to infinitely large, as they could project their consciousness into the inside of an atom. Okay. So it's quite interesting how then material science sort of destroyed a lot.
Yeah. Taking it back to Tesla for a second, because I know there's a quote, something that he said. I might butcher this, but it's something along the lines of, if scientists would just study the non-physical for 10 years or something, they would discover more than they have in the past, 100 years or something like that.
Absolutely.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There's definitely more to this reality than what we see and hear. That, I've always been a firm believer in that.
Yeah, it's amazing that people think that if you can't see it, then it doesn't exist. But think about a hummingbird's wings. Things that we don't see are just, it's because they're vibrating, whatever,
Yes.
vibrating at a very high frequency that is outside of the visual range spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Exactly.
And, radio waves, we believe in those.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
love. What about love?
Mm-hmm.
You can't see love. You can see effects of these things, but you can't see actual love. Although Einstein tried to put an equation to it, and right before he died, he didn't make it.
A love equation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so what percentage of the visible, or of the spectrum, is visible light? What percentage is that?
Oh, it's so I don't know
So
the actual,
small.
but it's tiny, and the electromagnetic is so much bigger.
So when you
And
think about that, it's like humans, we're blind. We're practically blind. We're going around blind.
So right.
We're not seeing.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Couldn't have. And you have people who grieve, like me, over the loss of someone. And when you grieve, your energy, like I said, we're all energy, vibrates at a much lower frequency, all the way down to the bottom of the visible range.
Yeah.
And so your son or whoever, it's hard for them as spirits to slow down their frequency to get into the visible range so they can connect with you. And that's why mothers, especially, they're the last ones to get any connection with their kid.
Wow.
Because that bond is just usually, I can't speak for everyone, so strong. And that's what we say, I feel low. I'm so depressed. And that's why we say, hey, I feel high as a kite, I'm over the moon.
Yeah.
Vibration.
So, can you talk about the law of attraction a little bit? Are you familiar with it? Your work reminds me of it, and I've been very into it, the past 10 years or so. Can you talk a little bit about the law of attraction?
Yeah, it is just about thought, consciousness brings things into the reality. The universe will give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'll give you an anecdote. I had a nurse, Betty Jo, who, when I was a kid, I mean, she gave me my kindergarten shots, and she actually became my nurse when I was a physician. And I remember her
Mm.
from when I was a child telling my mom, Dr. Jackie, I know I must have colon cancer. Please do a proctomy or all that. And just, just all the time. And I thought, good Lord. And guess what she died of? She thought it into existence. And I
Wow.
remember I watched the Marcus Welby program, and this little kid had something called ITP, idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura. Say that 15 times real fast. So I went to the dining room where my father was practicing his guitar. I said, "What's ITP?" And he told me what it was. 1 week later, I developed ITP. The weirdest thing.
What is that?
The ITP, idiopathic, it's when your platelet count gets really low.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Wow. See, that's crazy. Yeah,
yeah, so
that's like me. It's like whenever I start to feel sick, I tell myself, I'm not sick. I'm good. I'm all right. And I feel better. It's like if I
beware
sit there
your
like,
thoughts, people.
yeah.
You're right. You're so right. Beware of what your thoughts are. Beware, because, like I said, it collapses that special equation called the Schrodinger equation. Look it up, guys. God, don't ask me how to spell it. But anyway, to change waves into photons.
Mm.
Photons that, with your thoughts, can give you colon cancer or ITP or abundance or whatever it is. That's how it works. There's nothing more than physics to it. Everything is
Hmm.
math. The language of the universe is math, i.e., physics. Everything.
Yes.
That doesn't mean there's no divine.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm very spiritual. I love my divine team that I work with in the scalar field. I love them so much. And yeah.
Yeah. I think I read my first book on law of attraction. When was that? 2016, 2017. And, I watched The Secret. And
Yeah.
after that, I started to, you can't see it, but above that $100 bill poster right there, I got my vision board, and
Oh,
I used to always carry what do you call it, a rock in my pocket, and people thought I was weird. And it was like, from the movie, I think it was from the movie, they called it to I called it the attitude of gratitude rock. And it's like, so whenever I'm like going about life and I start to like get negative or down, I just touch the rock in my pocket, and it helps me like get refocused. And then
oh,
also I have
that's
on my cell phone, I have like 20 different alarms, and they're all, when the alarm goes off, I look at my phone and it's a I am affirmation, I am,
oh, that's nice.
I have those go off, and some of them are kind of weird, but, and I get kind of weird if people see my phone go off and they would read what it says. But
Oh, who cares?
yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. Arthur, basically people thought, what was it, Galileo or Copernicus was mad because he thought the earth was round, right? And
Yeah.
I think whoever he was, who was it? Do you remember?
Um,
Copernicus? I think it's Galileo, but I don't know. Well, who cares?
yeah.
Look it up later. But so I think they even sent him to prison for no,
For
Copernicus'
saying that.
sun is the center of the solar system. But anyway, guess what? The Earth is round. So
Hmm.
Arthur Schrodinger said that truth goes through three phases. First, it's ridiculed.
Hmm.
Next, it's scorned. But then eventually, it's accepted as self-evident. And spirituality is going through that same stuff.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I even feel like, do you know who Steve-O is? Steve-O from Jackass?
Oh
Huh?
yeah, Steve-O. Oh yeah, I
Steve-O,
used to
yeah.
watch Jackass all the time. Yeah,
Yeah. But
younger.
I was watching his podcast a couple of months ago, and he's actually a really smart guy. He's sober now, and he's actually a really smart guy. And something that he said, I was just, it like blew my mind. I was like, wow, that does make kind of sense. He says that, oh yeah, basically to what you just touched on. Like we used to think that the earth was flat, but we found out that it's round. And he said something along the lines of, up until this point, we see time as linear, like the past and the future. We see time as linear, but he was like, you know what? I think it's more like probably cyclical, and we can't even fathom that. We can't even understand that. So then it makes me think about, yeah, like, the afterlife, other dimensions. It's very possible, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah, there's infinite number of dimensions. They're all swirled into each other like one of those yogurt strawberry
yeah.
chocolate thing Erik says. And the way he describes time is there is no linear time, really. That's just a human construct. We have to have that for the human experience, because we have to have, something we do has a consequence. We have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there is really no time. Everything is happening all at once, all our future and past lives, etc. And he described it as like, consider a wagon wheel, right? Your oversoul, your higher self, what do you want to call it, which is also in the afterlife, is at the center of the hub. And all these spokes are your different lives. They're all there at the same time. But as that that wheel rolls in the mud, it creates a track of the linear timeline. So that makes it a little easier to. Or he also says like a stack of books, right? So those stack of books are all there, but you pick one, you're reading that one. That's your present life, okay? But those others are still there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so tell me, when did you first notice the first messages that Erik was sending you, and what were they?
I think the first one was every time my husband came from the garage into the kitchen, the Viking downdraft vent would go up and then down, like 3 days in a row. Okay. Well, that was weird because we were remodeling the kitchen at the time and there was no power. The whole electrical was gutted. So there's no power to anything. Or he'd turn on faucets all the way. He'd make unplugged blenders go on. Again, he called us on the telephone. And I remember the phone ringing and ringing. And usually our phone, our message machine, whatever you call it, picks up right away. But it was so annoying. And it was campaigns, robocalls were just awful. So I got so irritated because I was working on the blog. But then finally it picked up. It says, "It's me, Erik." Mom, it's me, Erik. It's me. So I flew over there, picked it up, and there was nothing. But it didn't leave a message. And my answering machine always picks up. Plus, it was this weird 12-digit number that I called, and there was no one there.
Oh my God.
The main thing I think was that made me really realize that he did exist, like no more doubt, was we were interviewing Jesus, believe it or not. Awesome interview. And I asked him, well, also Quentin Crisp, the homosexual writer of, and it's important for you to know that he's a homosexual, of the Naked Civil Servant. He wanted to be interviewed, but it wasn't his turn, so he just sat on the couch watching Jesus being interviewed. So I said, "Jesus, are you here in some incarnated in some form?" And you can hear him clearly saying yes. And then Erik, in his voice, says to Quentin, "Do you think we can we get him to come to breakfast?" And he never said breakfast. He said it like a little kid.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then Quentin Chris says, "I'm down with sausages," Oh, that was funny. But so we had that analyzed by two audio specialists, and they said it's not human. For many reasons, but for one, they didn't leave any voice print, no voice signature. And then we have this was actually one of the first. A few days after Erik died, I was walking toward his bedroom, and my daughter Michelle was walking behind me, and she saw a camera on the counter, picked it up, started snapping pictures, and she captured this bright orb. And a lot of people catch our orbs, and it's just smoke or whatever, right? So we had that analyzed by a photo person expert. And he took the gamma down, and I don't know what they do. And he said, "No, this is its own light source." And you could even see it casting light on our stairway banister. So there's been we've had a lot of experts analyze, mostly for my purposes. I wanted to dispel all doubt if possible, or at least find out the truth.
Yeah. So yeah, you have your book. It's called Channeling Erik, right? And so what does he say in the book? What are his messages of what it's like?
There's My Son in the Afterlife.
Yeah.
But there's also a better one that I didn't write. It was actually Erik, is My Life After Death, and that helped me heal so much. A Memoir from Heaven. He describes everything, his death, his crossing over, and the first 3 chapters were brutal for me. Almost stopped doing it, but then you end up finding out everything about the afterlife, what the bark of the trees are like, or like when insects die. A lot of the spirits like to like hang around and watch, and they can manifest anything instantly. Thought creating reality is instant for spirits.
Mm.
And it's like fireworks coming out of this portal. These beautiful bright sparks are insects that have died. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's just cool stuff like that. There are buildings there that are actually made of spirits themselves. So, by the time you get to the end of it, first of all, I'd be surprised if you weren't pranked by Erik, because almost all readers have been pranked by him. But there's not much mystery left to death, and the afterlife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's very strange. My sister is always getting random feathers. Like she has a whole collection of feathers that she just like everyday life. Like, oh, here's another feather. Like,
Yeah.
and those are signs, and it's just it's just crazy. So
I have so many. Like one time I was in the passenger seat of my one of my daughter's Hondas, and I saw, well, first of all, the car was a mess, but I saw this dime in the little thing in the door, the little pocket, and I picked it up because I wanted to brush all the dust off of it, right? And I picked it up in my hand, and it just disappeared. Also, I took care of the Robert, this medium who had to have major abdominal surgery, and we took care of him in the room upstairs. And yellow airsoft BBs would materialize at the ceiling and drop it. And he did that to me too. I'd just be sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden, blink, 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 blink. And the way they do that is they can take anything, the energy of anything, right? Like they can create an airsoft BB where they are and lower the energy, lower it, lower it, lower it until it can get into the 3D, the visible spectrum.
wow.
But it also describes what a spirit's senses are like, their emotions, what their capabilities are. It's just, what they miss,
Wow.
things like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. The last episode, I only put that one up on Spotify for the meantime, but I interviewed a guy named David Oman, and he lives in a house on Cielo Drive in Beverly Hills, where the infamous Manson murders took place in,
Oh,
what was
wow.
that, in 1969, and he lives right there on that street, and that house there's so much strange activity that happens at that house, and
Yeah.
I think it's just crazy. It's like, because research says that areas with high electromagnetic frequency, in those areas, usually that's what's needed for the spirits to manifest. And so there's some strange connection with the, you
Yeah.
know, so I don't know what that is. And I was watching some of those videos, and it was strange, man. Like they were doing a seance in the one room, and they had a psychic and a medium, and they were doing a seance, and then the candle just went out on its own, or you could tell like the energy changed in the room, like the
Yeah.
candle was like flickering like crazy, like there was no wind, you know what I mean? And then they had this little keyboard, and it just went off on its own, and it's like anyone watching that video, you can see that the energy, whatever you want to call it, the energy changed in that room,
Yeah.
whatever you
Well,
want to call it.
Erik says that there are portals that are open in different places that should not be open. And there are negative entities from other dimensions that go through these. And it especially happens to people that have portals. I'll actually call them energy tears in their own energetic body due to trauma, loss,
Wow.
etc. And these negative entities love to feed off their misery, their sadness, and then they hope they're out. They make them into alcoholics and
Oh
addicts.
man,
Um. Oh, I'll
I
show you.
believe it.
I'll show you one picture. This one lady took. I don't know if it'll show up, but let me look up creepy photo because that's how I have it. She called me all upset because she took a photo. Creepy photo. Where are you? Oh yeah, no. Hmm. Well, anyway, I keep looking. Go ahead and
Yeah.
I'll multitask.
Yeah. I was gonna say was, yeah, like to touch on the point that you just brought up as well, is that my dad, for the longest time, or maybe I don't know, as far as I think maybe at least 10 years now, he tells me that he sees shadow people. And I'm like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And he has glaucoma, he's old. And so I'm like, oh, maybe it's your glaucoma or whatever. But he's like, nah, like he says he literally sees like shadow people. And so, and then I look into it, and the Native Americans describe that as yeah, like you're kind of what you're talking about, someone who's gone through trauma, or
Yeah.
they just have this negative energy. They're drawn to it.
Exactly. Yeah, my older sister always told my mom she saw this hat person, this black figure with a hat on. And come to find out that that actually is a thing, this evil thing that comes from another dimension that has a top kind of a short top hat and red eyes. It's really freaky. Um okay, I'm gonna find it. I promise you. Oh, there we go. Look at that picture.
Okay, is that photoshopped?
No, she was freaking out. She
Who
was so
who's
scared.
whose picture
This
is that?
this one is the
Who is
one
it?
that called. I don't know. One of my clients. I
Oh,
don't share her name, but she called. Please help me. I heard scalar energy can get rid of negative entities and all that stuff. And so we worked on her a long time, and her whole life was light. Her home was light. We closed all the portals, sealed them forever,
mm-hmm,
protected her with a whole bunch of different protection things we do,
mm-hmm,
and got rid of that thing. And then when you do the scalar energy stuff, you also open the portals that should be open
mm.
to let in abundance. And so 3 days later, she got a $30,000 check from some distant relative. No, $100,000 check from a distant relative.
Wow.
And another guy said, somebody just gave me a truck. So energy tears and portals, they're real. And if you're on land that has a lot of bad mojo, like in the Viking lands and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people living on those can really suffer a lot of, um, a lot of interference from, and maybe there's vortices too. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember me and my friends, like we were going to some kind of like we were going to hang out with some friends, and I go to this guy's house, and I'm walking up, and I look up at the house, and my first reaction was, I was like, dude, this place is haunted. Like
Wow.
I didn't even walk in, I just like I could just tell. Maybe it's because it's an old house, so you think it is or whatever, but I just looked at it and I just felt it and I just knew it. And then we go in the house, and then it was just a weird experience. It was like I could just tell, like all my friends and all of us were like we were acting different. Like there was a higher level of anxiety in the room. Like it
Wow.
was just like it was very weird in that house. And then I start talking to the guy, and then he tells me that his dad died, and I'm pretty sure he died in the house. And I don't know if that's related or whatever, but I just remember just like my friends thought I was crazy. I'm just sensitive. I feel
Yeah.
like some people aren't, and they don't feel it and they don't recognize it, but I felt it and I could see it. People were acting different than normal, and then for some reason I was kind of drunk at the time I was drinking. And I went outside to the backyard, and I was just like, um, I was talking to whoever it was. I was just like, hey, like, I was drunk in the backyard just talking to this spirit. I was just like, hey, like, I want to let you know I'm sorry about whatever happened to you, and I love you, and I hope you're okay. I must be weird, right? Like
What happened?
nothing happened, but I felt like they were listening, whatever it was. And
They
but
probably were. It's
yeah,
like these bad mojo places, even ones that have had a history of family feuds or indigenous tribe battles, and all that. Or if they're on an ancient burial grounds, and let me tell you, they're everywhere. I mean, even if it's
yeah,
300,000 years ago, um, those can change the mojo of the household so that people end up killing themselves or murdering.
mm,
So I mean, it could be that happened to him now. But we take care of that. We get rid of all the earthbound spirits. And one lady who I did this on, and not all earthbound spirits are bad. Most of them are
yeah,
not. But we guide them into the light. So this one lady said, "I knew that you did my scalar work, the main service. because I was driving and we have this earthbound spirit that's always with me. And he was in the back seat of the car just talking to me. And all of a sudden he has this WTF look on his face and whooshes out the window.
Wow.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how like the stuff that you do can like reach, far distances like that, and like you don't even
Yeah.
have to be in the room or whatever.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how has your work with channeling and afterlife communication impacted your beliefs and worldview?
Well, I don't want to even talk about worldview because I just hate what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
But it's made me have a stronger conviction that there is more to life than what we see. Obviously, it's made me feel and understand that we are a collective, that we are whole and part of God, like a hologram, right? Like you don't remember, but when I was younger, we had these hologram necklaces of a skull. Oh, so cool and hippie, If you break it, it fractures into little pieces, and if you look in a microscope, you'll see a whole skull in each of those. So that's what we are,
Mm-hmm.
whole and
Yeah.
part of God. And so the thing is, knowing it is one thing, but living as such is altogether a different thing. So that's what I'm trying to do, to learn how to live, knowing that we're all connected and knowing that
Mm-hmm.
abundance is infinite and separation and scarcity are complete illusions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of this reality, can be an illusion. Especially if we're stuck in our, negative ways and our negative habits. Um, so what advice would you give to someone who is just starting off, on their own spiritual journey?
I think the most important thing is to listen to your intuition. It will never steer you wrong. And people don't believe it. So, nah, it's just me. Come on, whatever. So listen, because, I'll give you an example. I was a resident in Galveston, UTMB Galveston, and I had a horrible call. And so I was on the beach reading a book on a Monday in a blanket, laying on a blanket. And I was just so tired. There was nobody around, but I got this weird feeling that something evil lurked. And I was about to get up, but no, I turned my head and there's this creepy guy coming toward me. And then he gets beside me and starts massaging my thighs and talking to me and talking about how I had cellulite, which I think is really rude.
Wow.
Anyway, he's about to strangle me. But then he stopped and asked me, "What do you do?" And I said, I'm a physician and a black belt karate instructor." I'm not, of course. But anyway, he
Mhm.
left. And I find out 2 years later, he's the Killing Field serial killer.
I
I
don't
wish
know what I don't know what that is. Is that a big name in
Oh,
Texas?
God. Yeah. Oh, I'll show you his lovely
Wow.
picture. Edwin, no, Clyde. Uh, I'll go ahead and keep talking. I'll
Yeah.
look it up.
What'd you say his name? What'd you say he was known as?
It's Clyde Edwin Hendricks. Oh, he just looks like one. Oh, here we go. Images. Texas Killing Fields serial killer.
Killing Fields. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
okay. One picture of him.
Jesus.
Oh, there's the classic one of him. But my intuition told me something was lurking before I even saw that ghastly
Yeah.
place. So,
Yeah. So
um,
so what about, I like to ask my guests about synchronicities. Could you talk about that? Do you know about synchronicities or have any experience
I'm
with
not an
them or?
expert, but I know there are no coincidences. Everything
Yeah.
has its divine timing, etc.
Hmm.
Um, I can't think of a synchronous event, but there have been. I just, old. I can't remember.
Yeah. Okay. So can you talk about the importance of self-care and self-compassion in the process of healing and grieving and personal growth?
Yeah, I can. I struggle with that myself because I want to take care of everybody and neglect myself. Uh, but self-care is so important, and self-love is, well, we are love. Everything is love. That energy called love that again Einstein tried to define in an equation, and that's hard for people to believe. But self-loathing is the basis of almost every disease, right? And how can you not love yourself when you're whole and part of God? So we have these powers that, because of the human experience, that we have abandoned. The power to heal ourselves and others, the power to have complete autonomy over our and sovereignty over our own energy. We give it away. And, the power to love ourselves. And I use love a lot in the scalar field. I send love. Sometimes I sob when I do it, when I'm sending love to them.
Wow.
And I talk to their higher self about, trying to love themselves, etc. So yes, it's really important. If you want to stay healthy, you must love yourself, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. You're divine. You're
Yeah.
vastly divine and powerful. We're eternal beings,
Yeah.
and sometimes the human experience that we need gets us down and
Definitely.
beat us up.
Definitely. Yeah. I remember I had a strange experience about, a little over a year ago. I've been sober for about, I don't know, like a year and a half now.
Good
And,
for you.
I have been drinking since I was 14 years old. I didn't really see it as a problem. It was just like on the weekends, there was a lot of partying, but it started to get a little excessive. And then as I get older, it's like the hangovers were getting worse. And it was just like, I need to cut this habit out, and I remember I did have like a strange experience. I was sitting in a Starbucks, sitting in the coffee shop, and I don't know, I'm sure I imagined it, but it was like, I saw myself walk in the coffee shop, and literally had like, it was like an out of body experience. And it was like, I was watching myself walk in the coffee shop,
Wow.
but it was me. I was hungover, and I was poor, and I looked bad, and I just looked low frequency, low energy. I just looked, and I was looking at myself, and I was like, wow, that's me. Like, and then I saw my other version come in, and it was like, it was like, I was dressed nice, and I was
Wow.
I was healthy, I was fit, and I was in shape, and I looked like I had money, and I lived the life that, that I of my passion, of my purpose, of my dreams. And I saw that guy walk in. And like I said, I'm sure I imagined this in my head or whatever, but it was just like I saw that guy walk in, and then at that point I was like, yeah, I need to cut out alcohol. It's
So
it's
you
not
need to be
it's
that
not
guy.
yeah, I need to be that guy. I can be that guy. We all need to be our best version.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a weird epiphany I had, and it really reinforced my beliefs, and it was like, yeah, I gotta cut this out.
It shows a lot of strength and courage. And look at you now, you're a light worker, sharing wisdom to
Yeah,
masses.
that's what I want to do. A lot of this information. I know people are going to be skeptical, but I have a deep feeling. Give it 5, 10 years, 20 years, even. I don't know. Like, this stuff is going to become even more accepted. We're gonna see it happen.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on. What advice would you give to someone who is grieving and seeking to connect with a loved one who has passed?
Well, first of all, you try to raise your vibration. Really try to, listen to stand-up your favorite
Hmm.
comedy, dance, whatever.
Hmm.
But also there's little things like the hand game where you have your hands out and you designate one as yes and one as no. And you ask a yes or no question to your loved one. And you have to wait. Sometimes you don't feel anything for a while. So you have to say, just make it stronger, make it stronger, make it stronger. And you'll feel like maybe it's a tingling or feel like something is blowing on your palm. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest. I also have on the Channeling Erik YouTube channel, I think the YouTube is called Paranormal Tools of the Trade. And it shows you how to communicate with your loved ones with the dowsing rods and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You even get hugs from them. It's so funny. What else was I going to say? And just talk to them. They hear you. They hear you.
Wow.
They're with you.
Uh-huh.
And you can ask them, please make your sign stronger.
Wow. Okay. And What role do you think spirituality plays in the process of healing and personal growth?
Well, it depends on what you mean when you say spirituality. Just the knowledge of source and the divine
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
thought creating reality, all that stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just like all of a sudden flying at 40,000 feet. You
Mm.
see the world differently.
Yeah.
You have the broader, it's like life is like chess. Okay. So usually with the human experience, we're the pawns that are being shoved around.
Hmm.
But it's better to rise above and see this as, this is just a human experience. And I'll tell you what Erik says about the human experience. Looking at it from the perspective of the chess player, then it's all
Yeah.
different. Then a lot of your suffering will go away. Now, Erik says, of course, the human experience is necessary. Ugh, I wish I'd just get the cliff notes sometimes. But anyway, so it's like God's source, sent out little bits of itself, what do you were saying, this energy
Yeah.
that we are in order to experience, because God can't know hot unless it experiences cold, etc. You have
Yes.
to have the contrast.
Hmm.
And the main purpose of God is to uh, understand all the facets of love. And you can't do that without the human experience. You have to agree with another soul to be betrayed in order to learn how to forgive and things like that. But he says it's like cooking brownies. Um, you know, God can read the recipe book and look at it and see the picture of a brownie, but not until you come to earth and as a human and you mix up all the ingredients and get it all in your hair, in my case, put it in the pan, put it in the oven, burn your fingers, and
Yeah.
spread the icing, and then take that bite. Then you really truly know what a brownie truly is
Yeah.
from an experiential standpoint, not a conceptual one. It's like you could take the chemistry class, but you have to have the lab too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, I mean, we're here to learn lessons. We're here. Life is a test. We're here to learn lessons. And, I interviewed a hypnotherapist, my hypnotherapist on was episode 2. And she was talking about these past life regressions and how people, she puts people in a hypnosis and then she starts asking them about their past lives and they start talking about it. And then some of them have even, wake up and they're like, what, and then they're even able to, research about their past lives and find
Cool.
find the name that they were talking about. So strange, man. So crazy.
Yeah, I asked Erik about a past life on somebody, and it was like it was so detailed, and she freaked out because she said, "Oh my God!" She was a one of the daughters of the Russian Tsar that just got
Mm,
slaughtered, and she thought that's so weird because when I was 13 years old, I couldn't get enough of that book, and it's a whole bunch of weird coincidence about it. But usually people aren't famous people, okay? But
yeah.
okay, she was. It was really crazy.
So what are some common misconceptions about channeling and afterlife communication?
That it was that that it isn't allowed in Christianity, that it's a
Mm,
sin. It was, Jesus was a medium and a healer, of course. And they struck all that and the whole knowledge of past lives out of the Bible during the either Council of Trent or the Council of Nicaea, because that would give too much power to the people. So
mm,
channeling is real. You guys, everybody has a capacity for it. Everybody
mm,
can channel. That you do. You don't even realize it, but you're doing it.
yeah.
And sometimes when you say, "God, I feel like so and so is going to call," bing, that's channeling. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, "Oh, mighty deceased loved one," but it doesn't have to be with a bunch of bells and whistles and fanfare.
Yeah.
When you can know what my husband's thinking. It's probably to get a new motorcycle or something. But anyway, I know uh, and then I start to say, oh, So, yeah.
Wait, so that happened recently? Like you could tell, like, oh, he wants to.
No, no,
Oh,
I made that up,
oh
but
okay.
we finish each other's sentences and stuff. That's
Yeah.
channeling.
Yeah.
Or how about when you feel like somebody's looking at you in the next car?
Mm-hmm.
That's channeling, and you look and
Yeah.
they're looking at you. So
Okay. So yeah, I mean, kind of closing it out, how do you see your work evolving or expanding in the future? I mean, I guess especially with the scalar technology or even with, the afterlife communication.
well, I mean, there's only so much I can do scalar energy wise. So I'll probably have to teach maybe my daughter, who's an ER nurse, is very spiritual and is a healer, does light language and all that. Maybe
Nice.
will help us out,
Mm.
help me out. And then I've had this lady who's a documentary filmmaker who came to my house one October with her crew and just for a whole month filmed us. So that documentary is coming out about channeling Erik sometime. I don't know when. It takes forever.
Oh, wow.
And then I had somebody from a production company that apparently she inherited an automotive company. She sold it all and wants to use all that money to produce a television series by the title of Erik. And it's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
fiction, inspired by true events. So it's going to be, they're probably going to make me have an affair with somebody. I don't know. Oh, what a 67-year-old. But anyway, but it's her thing, and she's so pure. It's such a pure producer. Her whole thing is she wants to bring spiritual awareness to the masses by
Mm.
having not preachy but just having these little things embedded in the series to teach people about life after death and
Mm.
all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. So yeah, you got a lot of things to look forward to, man. That's cool. I can't
Well, I
wait
mean,
to.
it's a crapshoot, it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But if she wants to do it, that's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. So with everything discussed, how can we empower people to become their best versions?
Keep doing your podcast. Keep doing your podcast.
Hmm.
Be the light worker you are. And you're a teacher too, teaching people that they are divine and powerful and they
Hmm.
are worthy of love and
Hmm.
self-love. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. So I wanna thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been a great conversation. You're you're
That's
so
fun. You're a
you're
really
so
good interviewer.
you're so smart. I enjoy being able to like get on this level with people. So a lot of the times I'm quiet throughout life. I feel like I can't relate to people, but I feel like I can really relate to you. And it's been a
Likewise.
pleasure. So I want to thank the listeners for sticking around to the end. So Dr. Alyssa, go ahead and plug all your information, and I'll also link it in the video description.
Yeah, just look at the links. If
Okay.
you're grieving, you need to get this book. And you could probably get it on, I mean, it's cheap anyway right now. But yeah,
Amazon.
yeah, Amazon, wherever.
Okay.
Yeah, and just love yourself. But anyway, atlantiscalar.com,
Yeah.
channelingearth.com. We have the YouTube channels for both.
Sounds good. All right. I want to thank you. Thank you for your time. You have a good
Thank
one.
you, sweetie. You too.
Bye.
Bye.